Should you sell all of your Tesla stock? Apparently, Philip Lowe, who was a former close friend, is CEO and founder of NeuroVigil, thinks you should. And he gives his reasons why in a post that he put on Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. We are going to read that post over at archive.org. However, today I want to say hello to all of you out there. Welcome back to Ruben Tech, where we talk all things at the intersection of tech, finance, and politics. And of course, who better to discuss at the intersection of all these things than none other, the man, the myth, the legend, Elon Musk. Let's go ahead and get into this very interesting post. And then afterwards, I will let you know what I'm going to do here on Tesla Earning Day. Philip Lowe writes, I have known Elon Musk at a deep level for 14 years, well before he was a household name. We used to text frequently. He would come to my birthday parties and invite me to his parties. He would tell me everything about his women problems. As sons of highly accomplished men who married Venuses, were violent and lost their fortunes, and who were bullied in high school, we had a number of things in common most people cannot relate to. We would hang out together late in Los Angeles. He would visit my San Diego lab. He invested in my company. So I really like this piece right here, this first paragraph. What he's doing here is he's showing that he and Elon had a pretty close connection, right? They had a connection, a bond that was built on things that probably the majority of people can't identify with everything. Everything's kind of like a filter. Some of us might have had violent dads. Some of us may have had rich parents. I'm not in either of those categories. But how many people had rich parents who lost a fortune? Now, when they said that, it wasn't like their dads went to the poorhouse. Their parents got fabulously wealthy, and then just became wealthy instead of being fabulously wealthy. But how many people experienced that? And then, how many people in that situations, dads are violent? And then how many of them, their dads married Venuses? So this narrows it down as a filter. It narrows everything down to show that they had a lot in common for people who probably didn't have a lot in common with too many other people. Okay, let's get back to the article. Philip goes on to write, Elon is not a Nazi per se. He is something much better or much worse, depending on how you look at it. That's pretty interesting. Nazis believe that an entire race was above everyone else. Elon believes he is above everyone else. He used to think he worked on the most important problems. When I met him, he did not presume to be a technical person. He would be the first to say that he lacked the expertise to understand certain data. That happened later. Now he acts as if he has all the solutions. Well, this I find extremely interesting, and I have noted this myself, that there has definitely been an evolution of Elon along the way. Of course, this happens to everybody, right? But with Elon, right, we saw this point, where all of a sudden he started acting like he was an engineer and a scientist. And a lot of us fell for it. Even I did a little bit. I always kind of questioned because I was like, he's pretending to know too much, right? But then it became very apparent to me, and I think it's 2014 to 2015 when he first started posting about Bitcoin, just nonsense, ludicrous statements that showed me he absolutely knew nothing. And then I realized he was a complete fraud it was the cave diving incident where he's like, oh yeah, I'm going to do all these amazing things. He didn't do anything. And then he insulted the people that actually were helping. So I was like, oh, okay, he's one of these people. Right. And so what is going on here is basically that Elon Musk, is a narcissist, but he's a great businessman. Okay. Just like Steve Jobs was. And whenever you're a businessman, you have to come along and kind of just build this following up, a belief in you. And as you do that, you start realizing, like more and more what you can do to acquire power and maintain it. And I just think that's apparently what Elon did. Like at first he probably was like, yeah, I don't know about certain things. But then he was like, hey, I can pretend to know about these things. And then people give me credit. It gives me power. It gives me, fame. It brings people under my spell, right? So it's just an evolution of his character. Nothing more, nothing less. All this talk about getting to Mars to maintain the light of consciousness or about free speech absolutism is actually BS. Of course it's BS. Elon knowingly feeds people to manipulate them. Everything Elon does is about acquiring and consolidating power. That's why he likes far-right parties, because they are easier to control. Okay, we're going to have to stop right here. So I know, the MAGA parties on here, as you know, I have a love-hate with MAGA. I have a hate relationship with them because I don't like really anything in their platform. It's not like I disagree with everything in their platform, but a lot of the stuff I don't agree with. But I do have a love relationship because I actually grew up around a lot of people who are in the MAGA cult now, and they're good people. And I'm not saying every single one of them. There's a lot of terrible people in the MAGA cult, and there's a lot of terrible people in actually every so let's just put it there. But there's a lot of terrible people in MAGA, but there's a lot of good people too. Okay. And what he's talking about here, just so if you're in the MAGA cult, just what he's saying, he's not saying that you per se as an individual are easier to control, because you might think, I'm uncontrollable, I'm my own man. What he's saying is that as a party, right-wing parties are easier to control. And this is absolutely true. And this is because if we look at something called spiral dynamics, you'll see that as you go down, they have different levels of consciousness. And don't think of it as one being better than the other. But just as you're at a lower level, I'm going to say lower level just because the spiral goes up. I don't mean you're at lower level of consciousness. But at the lower level, if you're at the lower level on the spiral, you're more tribalistic. And if you're more tribalistic, you're about people in your immediate group. You're about having this clearly defined leader. That's what tribalism is, right? It's kind of a passover from an instinctual upbringing, from being, essentially animals. Okay. And so that's where right-wing parties typically lie. Okay. This is just simply how it is. Right. And this is why a lot of the stuff that conservatives do is actually sort of appealing, because, it's like, hey, they really care about their families. They really care about their immediate families and their close friends. And well, of course they do, because that's what tribalism does, right? That you care about the people closest to you. You take care of your own tribe. And so, that's, you look at that, that's actually appealing. And then on the left, you get to the far left and they're like, everyone's equal. We all have Krishna consciousness, which I understand. And I'm not saying is wrong or anything, but it's a little harder to identify with. Even in Hinduism, they talk about that. They're like, a lot of people can't achieve Krishna consciousness because it's really tough. So here's an idol. Just worship this idol, because it's just, the idol's not God, but just it's easier to focus on this, right? So where am I going with this? Well, if you're in the right wing, you're tribalistic, you're going to be easier to control, because all you got to do is you just got to become that person of authority that they look up to. And you can't do that on the left. Because when you go over to the left, they're about ideology, right? And so they don't care about the people. That's why nobody on the left gives a hoot about Joe Biden, okay? Nobody on the left gave a hoot about Hillary Clinton. Did you have some fans of them? Yeah, but ultimately they don't care about them. No one's taken a Hillary Clinton flag and put it under law. No one's taken a Joe Biden flag, put it under law. No one's walking around with Biden hats. That doesn't happen on the left. And the reason it doesn't is because they're ideological. Right? They're about ideology, and the right isn't. Right is about people. And I'm not saying don't have any ideology. What I'm saying is what they are mainly based under. Okay? And so the problem with progressives, the problem with the far left, is that because they're always progressing, the ideology is constantly moving. So if you're on the progressive bus, right? Let's just say your senator, or your who's that lady who wrote Harry Potter? You're her. You're the lady who wrote Harry Potter, J.K. Rowling, right? And you're a feminist. You're a leftist. You're on the progressive bus. You're riding along. Oh, wait, I got to get off and stretch. You get off, you stretch. The bus takes off. It's like, oh, hey, and then come back. Somehow you catch up to it. And it's like, hey, wait, you guys have moved on. I was part of the feminists. And they're like, nope, we're about the trans. Get on. You're just like, wait a second. I'm not sure I'm with this, And if you just hesitate for a second, boom, it just drives right over you, right? It's like, nope, we're not waiting for you. It's because it doesn't, I want to say it doesn't care about people. It's not about people. It's about ideology. Okay. And so if you're based like that, think about that. And one, you have to have an ideology that is constantly changing to control the people. And that's very tough. Okay. On the other, you just have to have a person. That's easy. Not easy, right? But it's easier for a person, say, especially like Elon Musk. All you got to do is be that strong male figure, or, maybe a strong female figure, but that strong authoritarian figure, the tribal leader, right? So that's what he's talking about here, just so you can understand. Okay, that is why he likes far right-wing parties, because they're easier to control. That's also why he gave himself $56 billion, which could have gone to the people actually doing the work and innovations he's taking credit for at Tesla. Yes, he wants to be the richest person in the world, because so many people, especially on the right, they look at money It's kind of the status symbol of saying, oh, they're successful, they're great people, right? They worship wealth. They're worshiping at the idol of Baal, right? Of wealth and gold and whatever, the golden calf. The reason he does not do patents is because he would not be listed as an inventor, as putting a fake inventor on a patent would kill it, and moreover, would reveal the superstars behind his work. This is absolutely correct. You can look this up. Tesla does not do many. I don't believe they do any. And I wondered about this a long time ago because I come from the day and age where in the smartphones, there was these huge patent wars. In fact, Google bought Motorola, not for their phone division. I mean, partially did, but for the 3,000 patents that Motorola had because Apple was suing everybody, suing Samsung, suing Google. And so it gave them a war chest to go at Apple and say, okay, we're going to sue you right back. And all of a sudden they had to shake hands. Now, when they did this, did Sergey, did Eric Schmidt, did Larry Brenn, and even now, did Steve Jobs, did any of these guys say, we don't want these patents because our names aren't on them? No, they didn't. But Elon is taking a step above even Steve Jobs. Steve Jobs is the original, not the original, but one of the best cult figures in American history for business. And Elon Musk has realized, hey, I can even go a step beyond Steve Jobs. But to do this, I can't let other people think these guys are doing their work. I'm taking credit for all of it. I'm the mind that does all of this. Okay, so he's building an image. His lust for power is also why he did XAI and Neuralink, of course, to attempt to compete with OpenAI and NeuroVigil, respectively, despite being affiliated with them. Unlike Tesla and Twitter, he was unable to conquer those companies and try to create rivals. I fired him with cause in December 2021 when he tried to undermine NeuroVigil. Elon did 2 Nazi salutes. He did them for 5 main reasons. Okay, so real quick here, I just want to say, I don't agree with everything he's saying down here. He has a lot of good stuff. And I do want to mention that Philip Lowe, and later on he will tell us he is of Jewish heritage. So this might affect his opinion. Either way, I just want to bring that up before we get into this. But I do think this first one's really good. Number 1, he was concerned that the Nazi wing of the MAGA movement under the influence of Steve Bannon would drive him away from Trump somewhere in the Eisenhower Executive Office building rather than in the West Wing, which is where he wants to be. I don't know why I'm having a problem saying that. He's already feeling raw over the fact that Trump did not follow his recommendation for Treasury Secretary and that the Senate also did not pick his first choice. Okay, yeah, this is very interesting, right, to me. And I do think that this is true. I heard other rumors about this, and it makes perfect sense if you think about it, right? So basically, Steve Bannon, as I did a video on this channel, a lot of MAGA, not the MAGA sheep that are easily controlled, but a lot of the actual thinking MAGA, like Steve Bannon, gosh, I'm forgetting her name now, Laura, the crazy lady. But a lot of these people, they were getting upset with him over the H-1B visas. Nick Fuentes, they were like, what is going on here? They were even getting upset with Trump, right? And they're like, is this what we voted for? And then basically Elon told MAGA to go F theirself. And he had to realize, I mean, this is the thing about Elon. He's very impulsive. And I think he kind of felt like, hey, maybe this was the wrong thing to do because it kind of, he had some repercussions that came back from that, right? And all of a sudden he was like, what can I do to make up for this? Well, he's on the biggest stage in the world at this, moment at the presidential inauguration for Trump, right? Everybody's watching all this stuff. He's going ahead and he's doing this Nazi salute as a call out to the Nazi segment of the far right-wing party. Now, when he says Steve Bannon, under Steve Bannon, I don't think he means that Steve Bannon, I don't know if he's saying Steve Bannon is a Nazi. I don't think that he means that. I don't want to presume he does or doesn't. I would say I don't believe Steve Bannon is a Nazi. I do think that Nazi nationalists are going to go under Steve Bannon because Steve Bannon is a strong nationalist, okay? But Steve Bannon had been given a lot of hate, building a lot of fight towards Elon, basically saying that he's going to get him out of Trump's orbit. He's going to do whatever he can to get him out of Trump's orbit. Call him a fraud, all these types of things. Laura Loomer, that's her name. And she was doing the same thing. So Elon's like, hey, how do I win back these people, right? Nick Fuentes was on Twitter, really pissed at Elon. How do I win back these people? Well, I'm going to give him a call out on the biggest stage, right? Just think about that. And it was just like, mic drop. Oh, right. Nick Fuentes went wild, absolutely wild. Now, you know Steve Bannon knew what was going on, okay? But it's like, how is he going to keep Nick Fuentes in control? This guy, he basically just, boom, blew his load all over the place. Like for that to happen on that stage, understand Nick Fuentes is a self-proclaimed Nazi. He says he's proud to be a Nazi. Okay, so when I say this, I don't think I'm slandering Nick Fuentes. He is admitted self-proclaimed Nazi. Okay, and so for Elon to do that, that's a huge call out to him. Huge call out to those types of people. And so all those people were getting mad over the H-1B visas when Elon said, go F yourself, because they're like, what? You're going to be bringing all of these Indians over to replace us, the natural Americans, And it's like, Elon's, how can I win these guys back? Boom, mic drop moment, right? Very smart, very calculated at Elon's part, okay? So let's keep on going. This is a great piece. Absolutely great. He was upset that he had to go to Israel and Auschwitz to make up for agreeing with Nazi sympathizer online and wanted to reclaim his power, just like when he told advertisers to go F yourself. There's nothing to do with Asperger's. Absolutely correct there. Nothing to do with Asperger's. Does he even have Asperger's? Asperger's, like autism's, what? It's a spectrum, right? So we're all on it somewhere. And people making that excuse, that's the most ridiculous excuse. He doesn't have Asperger's any more than I do. Maybe we both have it a little bit, but what does that mean? He's intelligent. He knows exactly what he's doing. That was ridiculous. Reclaiming his power, I can see that, right? So whenever you speak out about certain topics, you get slapped down. And he spoke out about this and he got slapped down. And for a guy in power like him, that's got to be painful, right? Having to go on the apology tour, it's probably boring. And just like he did with the advertisers when he said that, right? He wanted to reclaim his power. What better way to do it than something like this? Best part about it, not best, I don't mean best, but it just shows how vile politics are in America, is that the ADL came out and actually defended him at first. Can you believe that? That's just nuts. It's just like, don't trust any of these organizations. God, they're all terrible. So, okay, going on. There are some Jews he actually hates. Sam Altman is amongst them. I don't like this statement, right? Does he hate Sam Altman because he's Jewish? Like, you can hate somebody, okay? And just because they're Jewish, that doesn't mean anything. So I really don't like the statement. Yeah, I think he does hate Sam Altman. He sued him like 5 times. But does he hate him because he's Jewish? I highly doubt that, okay? Elon, was best friends with Sergey Brin until he slept with Sergey's wife. Actually, a terrible thing to do, especially considering that Elon would not be where he's at without Sergey. When Elon went broke the first time, not broke, but broke for a millionaire, it was Sergey Brin and Larry Page who lent him the money. Larry Page is also Jewish, so is Sergey. They're the co-founders of Google. Sergey Brin and Larry Page or Sergey Brin for sure was the one, I think Larry too, but they had lent him money. Let's just say Sergey had lent him money to get started at Tesla. So kind of gave him the few $1 million in loans to get back on his feet, get Tesla going. Okay. So here's this guy, they're friends with him. I don't think that he hates Sam Altman because he's a Jew. He is Jewish, and doesn't mean that there's this Jewish person out there. I can't dislike them. That's kind of a silly statement how he stated that. But obviously he doesn't like Sam Altman. I think everybody knows that. Trump even just said that. He enjoys a good thrill and knows exactly what he's doing. I do believe that 100%. I do think he likes pushing the boundaries of what he can do, and he's absolutely realizing that right now. His narcissistic self was hoping the audience would reflect his abject gesture back to him, thereby showing complete control and dominion over it, and increasing his leverage over Trump. That did not happen. I do actually believe this too. I think that's why he did the second one. Okay? I think that's why he did the second one. He was really hoping it would be returned to him. Okay? So if you have people return something like that to you, it shows how much you're in their head. And they didn't. They didn't. And I was actually really happy that they didn't. In the moment when this came out, when it happened, I actually was thinking about that. Because I was like, oh my gosh. Like my personal thought was like, he's trying to completely take over MAGA from Trump. And as awful as Trump is, and I think Trump is pretty awful. Like I'm not like got Trump derangement syndrome. I don't disagree with everything he does, but I'm just not for the far right fascists. That's just not who I am. But as bad as I would think Trump is, Elon would be absolutely worse. Elon's like a comic book villain, okay? He's like pretending to be Dr. Doom. We both read comics growing up. That's the connection I have with Elon. He thinks he's Dr. Doom. Bottom line, Elon is not a Nazi, but he did give 2 Nazi salutes, which is completely unacceptable. It would be unacceptable, except for that the ADL said it was perfectly acceptable. And not that they get to deem it, but no one really cares. NB, for the few whining about my post, sans connaissance, I don't know this word, the cause, and either trembling about my having shattered their illusions about their cult leader or thinking I am defending Elon. My point is that he is transactional rather than ideological. Of course he is. All these guys like this is Trump is 100% transactional. That being said, I am not defending him or his actions, just explaining them and confirming that he did in fact do 2 Nazi salutes. If anyone had doubts or believed the doctored footage of Taylor Swift doing the same thing to normalize what Elon did. At some point, it matters to a few people if one is a Nazi or if one acts like one. My father was a Holocaust survivor. 32 out of 35 of his family members were murdered by Nazis. My mother's grandparents were murdered in Auschwitz. Number 4, after Elon tried to manipulate NV stock in 2021, I fired him with cause and he was unable to exercise his stock options. In the aftermath of the Nazi salutes, I told both him and his wealth manager to F off. Any remaining friendship between us ended with the Nazi salutes. He's blocked on my end and I'm pretty sure I am blocked on his end. Now this, I want to say, I find this very interesting. Okay, so the Nazi salutes caused him to finally break ties with Elon. Like, this is where I don't understand rich people, because like Elon, like it's basically when he fired him, you can go read the documentation. Elon really was trying to undermine NeuroVigil and even created Neuralink as a direct competitor to it, raising money and stuff like that. And where NeuroVigil was doing stuff well ahead of Neuralink. And actually, if you look at their work, NeuroVigil is probably still ahead of Neuralink, but Neuralink gets more attention because it's tied to Elon Musk. But Elon was absolutely trying to manipulate and undermine this company, even though he apparently he's this guy's friend. Like, to me, that would end a friendship. I would be like, what are you doing? So it shows to some extent that this guy, at all levels, everybody is transactional to some sense, right? Because even when that happened, that didn't end it. That didn't end their transaction, apparently, or their friendship, apparently. What ended it was the Nazi salutes. Apparently that was too much for him. Okay, so he does have some lines that he doesn't want to cross himself. I did not share what he told me in confidence. I just happen to know him extremely well. The person, aspirations, and the Musk mask. Absolutely. All these people wear a mask, right? I know who I am. I have no desire to be famous and give exceedingly few media interviews. This is true. Look up this guy. He's not very famous, but he runs an important company. When I say this, it's not like this large established company, but one day it might end up being something pretty big. I prefer to work in obscurity and let the work speak for itself. I'm certainly not envious and would definitely not want Elon's life, including living in a bubble and having to make one outlandish claim after another and manipulate the public. This is Elon and Trump. They have to do this. When you embark on this, understand that when you embark on this crazy thing, so you go on this thing where you're always got to be right, you're making an outlandish claim, you can never back down from anything, it never ends. Okay, because the moment it ends, when it starts, the facade starts to crack and you start to lose people. Okay, that's the problem with that. It's not a problem if you enjoy living it. I want to make that claim. If Elon wants to live that life and he's good at it, then more power to him. Have big one after another and manipulate the public, elections and governments to shore up my stock and prevent the bubble from bursting. Also, I should read that in whole. I'm certainly not envious. We definitely want Elon's life, including living in a bubble and having to make one outlandish claim after another and manipulate the public, elections, and government to shore up my stock and prevent the bubble from bursting. Yeah, I mean, that's basically Tesla. He summarized that exactly. Unlike Elon, I'm an actual scientist and inventor, and I'm not pretending to be someone I am not. Like a fellow who got his BA and econ at 26, all of a sudden pretending to be an expert in mechanical engineering, chemistry, rocket science, neuroscience, and AI, and keeping the people actually doing the work hidden and paying people to play online games is named to be smart. That feed is so-called super genius personality, Carl. I didn't read all this. The imperator has no clothes. I don't know what he means that. And he knows that I'm just very disappointed in what happened to someone I had a lot of deep admiration for. And the first person to find out about my concerns about his behavior was always him. Okay, so this is absolutely true. We see this interaction with Elon online with other intellectuals like Jan LeCun. Understand that intellectuals, there's different kinds of intelligence, but when you have intellectuals in the traditional sense, like scientists and stuff, these guys are smart enough to know that they're going to have a hard time publicly fighting against someone like Elon. Okay. But we see this on Twitter when Jan LeCun, right? Elon was like, what science have you actually done? And Jan's like, here's like the 50 papers I've done. And he's like, oh, that's not enough. Do more. It's like, right. There's really nothing that he can say to Elon to change his mind, to persuade him or anything like that. It's a losing battle for these people who are true scientists. But at some level, it really, really has to annoy them seeing somebody like this pretending, just an absolute pretender, pretending to know all these things when they know that he's just absolutely full of it, right? I mean, there's got to be, even for scientists, there's got to be a little bit of ego involved there. 7, he's the one who betrayed a number of his friends, including Sergey, and given his actions, many other people who believed in him and believed in him. I have no sympathy for his behavior. At some point, after having repeatedly confronted in private, I believe the ethical thing to do is to speak out forcefully and unapologetically, whatever the risk may be, so as to not be part of the timid flock remaining silent while evil is being done, including propping up far right-wing governments around the world, in part to deregulate his companies and become the first trillionaire, and otherwise to rule the planet. He knows Mars won't be terraformed in his lifetime, and he really wants his planet. No joke. Ethics matter. People matter. The truth matters. Absolutely. So I did not read this prior. Absolutely. 100%. 150%. Elon Musk. Okay. How many of you are out there with comics? I love comic books. Okay. I grew up on comic books. And I was a different person. I loved a lot of superheroes, but where everybody might have been like, oh, they always liked the superheroes. I liked a lot of villains. Okay. It's not that I identified with them, but I loved guys like Thanos. I loved guys like Dr. Doom that had these great intelligence, and they weren't just these like mindless, brutes like Rhino or something like that. They were looking for universal world domination. They draw up these plans, right? It was always so interesting to me, right? And they would always be these great scientists too. They just had these great technical minds, but they also had these minds that could strategize. They were really just, what would you call it? They were like Leibniz. They could do anything. Elon Musk, to me, he's not Tony Stark. He's Dr. Doom minus the engineering, science, technology skills, right? He's Dr. Doom though. That's what he wants to do. He wants to control the earth. I absolutely believe this. This is why he wants to become the richest man. This is why he's saying out loud that he will buy any election that he can. Absolutely. This is 100% true. He doesn't want to be Tony Stark and be in the Avengers. He wants to be Dr. Doom. No doubt about that. I agree with that 100%. I think that's obvious to anyone. I took down Descartes through the Cambridge Declaration on Consciousness. I'll have to read that. What does he mean he took down that? And I'm definitely not afraid of a so-called inventor. Does that mean he's anti-consciousness? Because Descartes, I think therefore I am. So he put consciousness as, so if he's taking him down, he must be a materialist. And anyways, that's an aside. I'm definitely not afraid of a so-called inventor whose greatest invention is his image. I will not be silent. You should not be either. I am a sovereign individual, and so are you. I stood up to bullies, and I'm stepping out of the dark to do it again. Stop working for him and being exploited by him. Sell your Tesla and dump your Tesla stock. Nikola Tesla was a great, creative, and courageous man who led with ethics and by example, and he would not have wanted his good name to have been used by Elon and would have agreed with my principled stance. I do believe that. We have the documentation of Nikola and his problems in his life with other people that exploited him. Sign off of X, which is boosting far right-wing propaganda, and off of Starlink as well. He's a complete C-word who doesn't give a about you, only about power. Just ask Reid Hoffman. He only wants to control, dominate, and use you. Don't let him and cut him and his businesses out of your and your loved ones' lives entirely. Remember, he is a total miserable, self-loathing poser, and unless you are too, he will be much more afraid of you than you should ever be of him. He will probably come after me, and I'm completely fine with that. I'm a self-made multi-billionaire with a armada of lawyers, literally, and most importantly, I know who I am. I stand for the people and the freedoms of whatever happens. He could send his dumb Proud Boys and Oath Keepers after me, and they will be butchered on sight. What the heck? Either I would rather die with honor than live as a coward. Silence encourages the tormentor, ever the tormented. Ellie, is this Ellie or Eli? Eli Wiesel, Holocaust survivor, Nobel Peace Prize laureate. Oh, wow. What a finish. That's a pretty strong finish. I got really emotional there at the end. Okay, guys, so that was a pretty interesting piece, but for what am I going to do with Tesla? Well, Tesla is an absolutely crazy stock. I'm going to come into here. We'll take just a quick peek at like what I got planned for Tesla. A long straddle is when you go ahead and you say you're going to buy a put and you're going to buy a call at the same price. So if I go through the builder, builds them out at the same price. So here I'd say I'm going to buy at $3.95, I'm going to buy a put, and I'm going to buy a call. And so both of them are for about 18 bucks. But together I'm at 36. And remember that as they move, they work against each other. So basically I got to move $36 either way, and then I start making money. And so a long straddle goes ahead and covers both of those. But remember, a long straddle is extremely expensive. So this is 3,600 bucks. This is expensive. But so this is going to be my play for the day. I'm not a financial advisor. Don't do anything I do. This is extremely expensive. You could lose a lot of money. So, but it's just what I'm going to do. All of you out there, have a great day. And be sure to like and subscribe down below. I need to get to 1,000 subscribers. Thank you.